Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your Manchester United versus Barcelona trip. We can do it in the new camp. We'll be talking about that, talking about Barcelona, talking about Erik ten Hag's biggest test and how he has to line up with a few players out, but we can still get a result. Barcelona are doing fantastically well, but we'll dive into that as well. Also, interesting story coming out from the Times, some more stuff about Mason Greenwood, where Man United stand on this, where the Man United's men team stand on this, and where the Man United's women's team stand on this. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. As you can see, I've got my predicted lineup on the left-hand side there, but Manchester United against Barcelona is a game. Well, the new camp is a huge ground anyway. It's got one of our best memories. Solskjaer has won it. It's a massive stadium with massive history, and it's got great history for Manchester United. But even if it didn't, it's still a big game. Manchester United against Barcelona at Old Trafford, and that's next week. Obviously, new camp on Thursday early evening. It's a 5:45 kickoff, if you didn't realise that. But let's be honest, this is not where these two teams will be next year. Hopefully, we'll be playing in the latter stages of the Champions League. This is not even the latter stages of the Europa League. I mean, a reality bite for both clubs that they sort of need to move past very quickly. Some people would say, would it be a bad thing if we went out? Well, it would be, because I think it's a big test. I think it's Ten Hag's biggest test, and I don't think he's going to concede it just because it might be better for our season. And I would argue that we can go for this now, because if you look at the league table and the gap we've got and we've created over the last few weeks, we've actually got breathing space in the league where we're not being pushed. So maybe we can focus on the Europa League a little bit more. It would take a huge effort, though. It would take a huge effort. Anthony and Jack, thank you and welcome to the Members Club. It would take a huge effort for Manchester United to get top four, win the Europa League, win the Carabao Cup, FA Cup. It's going to take a lot to do that. But let's not forget, we don't ever want to be in this position again, and neither do Barcelona. This is not even the first knockout round, really. This is the qualifier round. This is the one where the teams that finish second in the group of the Europa League play the teams that finish third in the Champions League. The proper Europa League knockout stages, that's where Arsenal are waiting. They're not playing. So Barcelona, Man United, it could be a Europa League final. It could be a Champions League final. Effectively, it's the qualifying round. That's where we're at. But that's where that sort of putting it down ends, really, because Barcelona are top of La Liga by 11 points. Manchester United, some people would put us in a title race. We're third in the league. On form, this should be a latter stage Champions League tie. But it's not, and that's what makes it rather intriguing. Barcelona have played really well recently, but I think there is vulnerabilities there. They've got a couple of injuries themselves, as we know. Ousmane Dembele can't play, Busquets can't play, but on the other hand, we've got a few injuries ourselves, and I think that's where I want to sort of start off with the team news. I don't normally do the team news at the start, but should shout out to the legend Mark and all single people out there to sleep. Oh, of course, it's Valentine's Day tonight. Well, if you're bothered about Valentine's Day. I mean, I always say this, if you're in a relationship, why are you celebrating one day of the year, telling someone you love them when you should be doing it every day of the year? And if you're not in a relationship, there's good football on tonight. So, this is how I think we'll line up in Spain. I think it will be De Gea in goal. I think Wan-Bissaka will come back in at right back. I think that's why Delo played against Leeds. Savarez, welcome to the Members Club. I think it'll be Varane and Luke Shaw. Obviously, Martinez cannot play, and you'd be foolish to play Maguire in a game like this. They're a team that likes to keep the ball on the ground and move it quickly, and that doesn't suit Maguire even if he wanted to. Malacia will play at left back. The midfield picks itself. It will be Casemiro, Fred and Bruno. And it may well have been Casemiro, Fred and Bruno anyway, but it will certainly be that with Sabitzer suspended as well, like Martinez. And obviously Eriksen and we believe McTominay's injured, although McTominay wouldn't be playing in this game either. The front three, I've put Rashford off the left, Weghorst up front and Sancho off the right because I believe that's how we will start. There is no expectation that Martial or Antony will play in this game. Maybe they will be involved, but you'd expect them to be on the bench. So I think you'll go with experience in the new camp. I can't see Garnacho starting. And you look, Garnacho off the bench would be useful, but I think that's how he's going to line up. And I'd be very surprised if we've got any of those players wrong. And I think it's very hard to predict a Ten Hag 11, but I actually think that will be the 11, and I think it's probably the right 11 to go with. Against Barcelona, I think you need experience in the new camp, and whatever you say about Weghorst, he will put a shift in, and you've got to put a shift in against Barcelona. Evening, Mark. I think Fred does far better coming off the bench, so I'd put our new signing with Casemiro and Bruno, says Igshan. Well, you'll struggle to do that when he's suspended, mate. He can't play. Sabitzer cannot play in this game. He's suspended. And so is Fred. Suspended because he's carrying over yellow cards from the Champions League with Bayern Munich, apparently. So, yeah. Now, I appreciate this comment by Jay. He said, I'm sorry, but Man United are going to get battered. I completely disagree with this, and I'll tell you why. Barcelona are top of La Liga at the moment, and look, I'm probably going to sort of confirm what Jay said there, but Barcelona are 11 points clear at the top of La Liga. That's impressive. They've conceded 2 goals in their last 8 games. 2 goals in your last 8 games is very impressive. Their lineup against Villarreal, where they won 1-0 at the weekend, was ter Stegen, Koundé, Araujo, Christensen, Baldi. Midfield 3 of Kessie, De Jong and Pedri, and then Rafinha, Lewandowski and Xavi. This will be predictable. Barcelona will play in a way where they keep hold of the ball and look to move it around in the typical tiki-taka way. They'll have a load of possession because that's what Barcelona do. They've only conceded 7 goals this season in 21 games, which is just unbelievable. It's not really what Barcelona are traditionally about, but defensively, they are rock solid. But I do not believe that La Liga is anywhere near of the quality of the Premier League. In fact, when I look at La Liga's league table and I see Barcelona top, Real Madrid second, 11 points behind them, Sociedad in third, Atletico Madrid in fourth. Personally, I think if you drop Brighton in that league, they're probably third. So I don't believe that La Liga is that good. I really don't. So I think Barcelona and Real Madrid, Barcelona could win the Europa League, Real Madrid could win the Champions League. But beyond those 2 teams, I don't really think the depth is that good. I think the Premier League is. So I think, and this happens every year, but people don't want to listen. I'm not saying that Barcelona won't beat Manchester United, and I'm not saying that Real Madrid won't win the Champions League. And I don't know why these Barcelona fans and Real Madrid fans get so hurt about this. Your league is not good. It is not the best league in the world. The Premier League is. And that's because you're bloody greedy. That's because Real Madrid and Barcelona are greedy and they want all the money and they don't distribute it fairly, so you don't have a competitive league. And this is why you want a Super League, because you've ruined your own league and now the money's not pouring in because your league's not that good. So you want to create a Super League so you can get rich off that. If you'd actually done what the Premier League model was and distributed your money fairly, teams like Real Sociedad, Villarreal and Valencia would be like teams like Chelsea and Brighton and Aston Villa who can compete. But you didn't. So you haven't got a competitive league. And I genuinely think if you parachuted Brighton into your league, they'd be in the top 4. I really do. So, yes, Barcelona have had a very good season. And I think realistically, they're capable of beating anybody 3 or 4-0 at the Nou Camp. But I've got a funny feeling we'll get a result. Because I actually think we're good enough to get a result. I really do. I think that Barcelona and Real Madrid are 2 very, very good teams. And I wouldn't be surprised if Barcelona did win the Europa League and Real Madrid did win the Champions League. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Manchester United went to the Nou Camp and got a result. And many people in the chat would say, well, a draw is a good result. But I think what people aren't realising is that Marcus Rashford's in the form of his life. Casemiro will probably be the best player on the pitch. Rafael Varane is a superb centre-back. Luke Shaw has played brilliant at left centre-back. You've got people like David De Gea, who's one of the best shot stoppers in the world. Wan-Bissaka, Malacia, I think they're reliable. Bruno will be up for it. There are weaknesses in the team. We know that Fred, you never know what you're going to get. Weghorst probably is a little bit too much of a higher standard for him. Sancho's only just coming back. But I think in Ten Hag, we've got a better coach than Xavi. And I think that we can go there and get a result. I wouldn't blame anybody for predicting that Barcelona are going to win. I think that's the hot take. But I have a feeling that we will go there and get a result because I think we're capable of getting a result. And I think Eric Ten Hag's a good enough coach to get a result there. And then I think you bring them back to Old Trafford and you overwhelm them with 75,000 fans. I think we can win this. I'm a little bit... I think it's insulting how many people have written us off. Our form has been fantastic. We've got really good players. I don't think there's a team in Europe at the moment that turns up and batters us because I don't think we're that team anymore. I still think even our fans carry the legacy of some of the shit results we've had over the last few years. But I don't really... we will get smashed by somebody at some point, but I don't think it's really likely that that's going to happen. I think we're capable of going and getting a result there. And I think Casemiro will be key. And I think Casemiro this will be his favourite game of the season. Ex-Real Madrid, going to the new camp, huge rivals, with Manchester United. I can see us getting a result. Who do you think is going to win, Mark, says Footy Edit? I'm going to go 1-1 because quite clearly Barcelona's defence is unbelievable. They've only conceded 2 in the last 8, 7 in 21 games in the league. They don't concede many goals. They've got Lewandowski up front, who for me, pound for pound, is probably the best striker in the world. I think he's a better finisher than Haaland. They've got players like Pedri and Xavi who are just fantastic up-and-coming players. I think Kessie, De Jong, they've got, Rafinha, they've got some really good players and they've got a strong defence. But I don't subscribe to the view that they're going to batter us. I don't think that will happen. It's always possible. I'm not going to predict that it won't happen because it's always possible, but I think we'll go there and get a result. And I think confidence is key. What do you think? I think it'll be a draw. Stephen Rossi says Barca's a good team, but the level of weekly competition makes most teams in the Premier League tougher to beat compared to La Liga, says Stephen. And would you take back Ollie as director of football? He would be... No, what a rubbish chat that is, Ajit. Sorry. Barcelona will find it difficult to deal with the pace of Rashford and Sancho on the counter, especially with the form Rashford is in, says Ricky. Well, the interesting question is, if you parachute... We've spoke about the quality of La Liga below Real Madrid and Barcelona. And look, even the most staunch La Liga fan has to acknowledge that Real Madrid and Barcelona apart, your league is just not that strong. I mean, Brentford can go and buy one of Atletico Madrid's best players because Brentford have got more financial capability than them now. The league is not strong because Barcelona and Real Madrid strangled it. They didn't want to share their money. It's up to them. But where would Barcelona slip into the Premier League? Where would you put Barcelona in the Premier League? Where would Barcelona finish if they played 38 games in the Premier League? And I think that's a really interesting question because obviously every home game they're going to play at the Nou Camp, which is an unbelievable ground. And they are a good team. I'd put them top 4. I don't know whether I'd put them top. I'd put them top 4, and I think that's a fair answer. Somewhere in the top 4, I think Barcelona would finish because they have got a good squad, they have got an amazing ground, and they have got some bloody good players. But they wouldn't run away with it. I don't think they'd run away with it. I think City would give them a good runny for their money. Arsenal are a bit of an anomaly, aren't they, this season? But they are the best team. They are top at the moment. And therefore, if you put them in the top 4, well, that's where Man United are, and that's why I think that this game could be quite interesting. What we've got to do in this first tie is not kill the tie. For all the people in the chat saying that Barcelona are going to batter Man United, if that happens, it's over, isn't it? The Old Trafford game just becomes an exhibition. We've got to be in the tie, and it'll be interesting to see how Erik ten Hag approaches this game because I think you're only at half time at full time on Thursday, so I think we will be pragmatic. I think that we will look to use the pace of Rashford on the break. I think we will look to protect the defence. And I think that every player has got to be putting in a 7 out of 10 at least. They've got to all be above average. But I'm going to go 1-1. I think it'll be 1-1. And I think we'll score first. Big Beak says that the Sabitzer suspension is frustrating. It is, but we would have known that when that happened. Stephen Rossi says, are there any injury updates? Ranzo, thank you very much for the super chat. I think we will give them the possession, Dusan. I think that's a great point. I think we will give possession up to Barcelona. I think they will have about 70% possession, maybe a little bit more. And I think we will give up the possession, yes, because... But then again, you look at what we did in the first half against Arsenal, and that didn't happen. But I think we will. I think we will. And I think it's going to be a fascinating game. But the whole point of it is, as I say, is to be in this game at Old Trafford a week on Thursday. And a draw would be a fantastic result, and I think that's what we'll get. I can see Rashford causing Koundé some problems, says Mario G. He's suspended because he got a yellow card or two for Bayern Munich. So he would have been missing this game, for Bayern Munich in the first knockout stage. Possession means nothing now, in my opinion, says Michael Talbot. And I speak for everyone when I say we want Qatar owners. You don't, Lucy. Unfortunately, you don't. Rashford will cause nightmares as football. And do you think Rashford is, as a striker, what Ten Hag would go for? No, I think in a game like this, Marcus Rashford off the left-hand side is a better move because he's easier to hit with the diagonal from someone like Bruno or Casemiro. It's easier to hit Rashford diagonal behind than it is if he's occupied by two centre-backs. And you know what, Arahu and Christensen have been brilliant this season as well. I would just leave Weghorst to occupy them. And it is a shame. It is a shame. I do, you know, it's the same as when we went to Arsenal without Casemiro. I think if Martial and Antony were fit, it would give us a better chance. But we go with what we've got. That's what we've been doing for the last few weeks. Man United struggle against Spain teams in recent years. This will be the best Spain team we've played in those years. Why are you underestimating this, Mark, says Matt. Why am I underestimating it? Why am I being classed as underestimating it anyway? I have said that Barcelona are a very good side. I'm backing my team to go and get a draw. I'm not underestimating Barcelona. They've conceded 7 goals all season in the Liga. They've only conceded 2 in their last 8. They're top of the league by 11 points. I don't think dishing out those stats is underestimating anybody. I just don't think that we've got anything to be scared of. I think we're capable of going and getting a draw, and I think that's what we want. Sancho is going to struggle to track back and Mark Baldi, which is a beast, and help Wan-Bissaka with Xavi, and Wan-Bissaka might struggle with crosses on the back post from Rafinha on the right. It's a Furman. Well, he might go with Delo. He may well go with Delo, but I don't think he will. I think he'll go with Wan-Bissaka. Muller has sent Sabitzer to United to knock out Barca at Old Trafford, says Matthias. Barcelona have got the cringiest fans, says Olu. Well, a lot of the ones that will be in the chat will be Darren from Norwich. You know, never been to Barcelona, let alone, you know, picking them when you live in Norwich. But there will be a lot of those. They're arrogant. Real Madrid fans are arrogant. Barcelona fans are arrogant. They've always been arrogant. They believe they are the best. And I don't really have a problem with that arrogance or belief because they very rarely aren't the best. They're always fighting for league titles. They don't fall off for 10 years like this club. I think there's a lot to be learned from Real Madrid and Barcelona. And I think as a football club, we fell off. We fell off for 10 years. That would never happen with Barcelona or Real Madrid. It would never happen with Bayern Munich. It would never be it would never be allowed to happen. They are arrogant because they believe that they are the best, and they never have a period of time long enough to realise that maybe they're not the best because they always are trying to be the best. They don't drop off. So thank you very much to the Glazers because we're Manchester United and we fell off for 10 years. Never be allowed to happen at Real Madrid or Barcelona. I don't know what more the Man United fans could have done, but we fell off for 10 years, and that's why Barcelona are arrogant because they don't fall off for a decade. They're always believing that they can win the Champions League and La Liga. That's what they do. And we need to get back to that. So whoever the new owners are going to be, we cannot afford to be dropping off for 10 years again. We can't even afford to drop off for 5 years. We need to come back like we are, and we need to bloody well stay. It's easier for them to dominate their domestic league. It's bent in favour of them, says Mark. Well, it is, yeah. And they can go shit on their Super League because I don't want any of our lot to be in it. The Super League is the Premier League because we built it properly, and that's what they should do with La Liga. Actually, just before I talk about this Greenwood story, it really annoys me. The Super League. You know, the Italian clubs, La Liga clubs. We want a Super League. Create your own. The old Division 1 wasn't great. We've created a Premier League that is the best league in the world. Nobody handed it to us. Go and create your own. If you want to create something for everybody, you've got to distribute fairly. And in the long term, you'll make more money. They just dropped the ball. Mark, since you're talking about Barca fans, they've all been completely brainwashed by their club's propaganda regarding the Super League, which I think is disgusting, says Simon. Well, you know, most English fans don't want the Super League because they see it for what it is. Greed. Rashi will have to watch out for trapdoors with all the Barcelona leavers, says Durian. And Ricky says, Mark, with the quality of top 8 to 10 teams in the EPL, would you focus on top 4 or go all out to win the Europa League to get back into the Champions League, says Ricky. I got to say, I've got to talk about this Greenwood thing, but I've got to say, big up to Ten Hag and the players because We've spent all season talking about why is the World Cup in the middle of the season? Why are we playing 3 games a week from the start of August to the end of May? How is it possible for this squad to fight on all 4 fronts when you've got to play so many games? And we have picked up the injuries that we knew we would. Anthony's out, McTominay's out, Martial's out, Eriksen's out, Donny's out. That's 5 players straight away. Delot's only just coming back for injury. We have picked up the injuries we knew we would. The fatigue is there. You know, at times Bruno looks like he needs a sleep. And yet the results keep coming. That's just down to pure stubbornness, pure hard work, pure motivation, pure obsession. And that comes from the manager. I genuinely thought, and I think that's a great point, I genuinely thought that by the time we played Barcelona in the middle of February, we'd be in a position where we were genuinely saying, do we need to just get knocked out of the Europa League and focus on top 4? But we're not at that point yet. And I think if Ten Hag can keep pushing it back and back, the closer we get to the end of the season where it may never become a problem. But I don't think we need to be, it doesn't matter if we get knocked out of the Europa League at the moment. Look at the league table. We've got a massive gap between us and Spurs in 5th place and the game in hand, I believe. So we've got some breathing space. We can afford to lose a couple of games. You know, I know it's horrible, but we could afford to draw against Leicester at the weekend and drop 2 points at home. I don't think we will, but we could, to focus on the Barcelona games. And I think he will do that. As an early spoiler, I think Leicester on Sunday, we'll see Varane rested again. I think he'll bring Maguire in. Sabitzer will obviously start. I think he will rotate the team again and give some of the fringe players a game. Araujo has pocketed Vinicius. Why can't he do it against Rashford, says Grimmy. Araujo won't be playing against Rashford. He plays at centre-back, doesn't he? So Koundé will be playing against Rashford at left wing. I didn't know Vinicius Jr. played up front for Real Madrid either, so you might want to check where people play, mate. Barcelona, not that great. If so, they'd be in the Champions League, says Anthony. Well, I don't know why. Barcelona had a very good domestic season, but you probably raised a good point. Remember, Barcelona did start in the Champions League. Why are they in the Europa League? Tommy says Mark's clueless, yet doesn't tell me why, which means Tommy's clueless because he's got absolutely nothing he can write other than Mark's clueless. You know what that is? That's somebody sat festering and frustrated wherever they are going, oh my God, I'm getting sat down so much I don't think I'll ever sit up. Oh, he's clueless, but he can't type anything back. 1-0 Goldbridge. Sit down, Tommy. Barca defenders there to get at, especially the form of Rashford, says Michael Collins. Well, I think the interesting thing about Barcelona as well is that domestically, and it goes back to what I said before, domestically, absolutely fantastic. But let's just have a look at what happened to them in the Champions League. And look, I know they were in the same group as Bayern Munich, but they were also in the same group as Victoria Plazen, weren't they? They beat them 5-1, well done. They lost to Bayern Munich 2-0. They lost to Inter 1-0. They drew with Inter 3-3. Lost to Real Madrid 3-1. And then, obviously, you know, they went out. So, at the end of the day, they played Inter Milan twice and only got a draw and a loss. So, I think it comes back to what I was saying before. How good is La Liga? If the standard of La Liga is not that good, then, and the standard of the Premier League is a lot better, then we might be closer to them. I was saying this to Ben Foster on Monday. I'm doing Champions League tonight. PSG against Bayern. Who knows how good the quality of the French league PSG is to the Bayern Munich Bundesliga side? You know, this is when we start to learn, and I think it's very difficult. James says Mark ain't clueless. He's a handsome devil. Thanks, James. But it's very difficult to predict the Champions League and the Europa League at the moment because you're predicting it based on domestic form. And this happened a lot with Serie A. Everyone used to write Serie A off as, oh, it's crap. You know, their league is very good, but when they play the bigger leagues, they're not that good. And then Napoli came along and started battering everybody. La Liga, maybe Barcelona aren't that good when they play Premier League sides. Maybe they'll be really good. We're going to find out. What funny is rivals are already saying because other teams are bad, United look better, says Ray Carl Brown Amori. Sacrifice Europa League, says Shane. Secure top 4 with a win over Leicester. Spurs and Newcastle will drop points on the weekend, says Shane. Mark, it's hard to say because Real Madrid struggles with Barcelona at times, says Abraham. Look, I'm going to go with a draw. It's not impossible we get beat 3 or 4-0, but it doesn't feel like we're at that stage anymore. But we've got to defend well, and we can't concede early. Arahu played right back against Real Madrid, says Druv. Thank you very much for that. Well, that clarifies what they said. And French League has been tough this year, says Danny. Well, I'm doing, straight after this, I'm doing PSG against Bayern Munich and Spurs Milan. So if you want to watch those games as a watch-along, join me. So, yeah, I'm going to go 1-1 in this game. That basically concludes the preview, but there is some topical stuff I just wanted to bring you. Bruno does need to step up, but Bruno's also tired. I think Bruno needs a bit of slack cutting sometimes. So this is just in from the Times. It's coming in from Times Sport, and basically what they're saying is that, which follows up from what was said by The Athletic last week. Some members of Manchester United's women's team have serious concerns about the possibility of Mason Greenwood returning to first team training. Some of the club's commercial partners are concerned about the prospect of Greenwood returning to training. And some players in the men's team harbour concerns about the idea of Greenwood coming back into the team, although others would have no objection to it given that he has not been found guilty of anything. Now, that is an interesting story. The women's team, we've heard of it before. Sponsors, we know, will not be completely happy. But it's interesting that this source that's given this information, and it's coming from Hurst Class, Paul Hurst, who's a good journalist, and Charlotte Dunker, who's a good journalist in the Times, they're saying that some players in the men's team don't really want it to happen, but some players in the team don't care because he's been found not guilty. Straight away, I can think of 1 or 2 players who won't care because they're mates with him, and I can think of 3 or 4 who are currently in the first team who won't want him anywhere near the team. But it's not my place to say that. What I would say is, what people will say is to all the players in the team that don't have a problem with it because he wasn't found guilty, did you have a problem with the recording? Did you have a problem with the pictures? And that is the question they should be asked if they're comfortable with him coming back in. Because that is the problem that Man United season ticket holders, some people within the club, sponsors have. It's not about you didn't go to court because it got dropped for whatever reason that no one will probably ever know. The fact is, you were going to court because of that recording and those pictures. And what's your statement about that? Were they falsified? Were they fake? Are you know, and I think that's the problem that people have with it. So, look, that's not me passing my opinion on it. You know what I've said. I've said, you know, it's not my decision to make. When Man United make a decision, I'll tell you what I think about it. But I don't really need to make a decision at the moment. But I've heard and spoken to enough people, and everything anybody says is always about, I don't really care about whether it went to court or not. I heard the recording. I'm not comfortable with it. I don't want him anywhere near the team again. And that's going to be the barrier in the court of public opinion. The article goes on to say that Man United refused to comment last week on reports that Ten Hag had spoken to Mason Greenwood. United have not yet decided if Greenwood will play for them again. The club said today they would not make any further comment until their investigation is complete. So we're not going to get anything else from the club, but clearly leaks are still coming out of the club from people about what they would be. And I think it's... Gabriel says, why can't we forgive? Well, you can. You can. And some people would say there's nothing to forgive for. That's up to you. But what I think we're going to end up with a position here is, and Man United need to realise it, you are never going to get 100% of the squad, 100% of your employees and 100% of your fan base saying bring him back. And therefore you've got a problem. And that's your problem to solve. Crack on with it and do it quickly. Ahmed says the recording doesn't prove anything. Good one, Ahmed. Do you believe... I'm taking the piss, by the way. A guy... I'm not reading out anybody's comments about the recording doesn't mean anything. He's only a young lad. He can learn from his mistakes, this, that and the other. To me, that's completely irrelevant. We're talking about should he come back and play for Manchester United again. He's going to build a life, and he can build a life, and he can do it away from Manchester United, is what many people would say. Doesn't have to come back and play for Manchester United as part of his recuperation. Nobody's saying he can't get a job. Some people just don't want to see him in a Man United shirt. And it's a bit like guitar or just a gym again, isn't it? But it's a more serious thing, I think, because people are going to have different opinions. I had hoped over the last 3 or 4 weeks of us constantly talking about this decision, that decision, this opinion, that opinion, that people might start to realise and remove their own head from their arse that just because you've got an opinion doesn't mean it's right. And somebody in that chat or in the comments or on social media will have a different opinion to you. Doesn't make you right, doesn't make them wrong. You have an opinion. If you want him to play for Man United again, some of you want him to play tomorrow or on Thursday. Some of you don't want him to ever play again. Who's right, who's wrong? The Bundesliga is not competitive, but Bayern are always in the highest stages of the Champions League. Also, more La Liga clubs won the Champions League and Europa League than Premier League clubs. What does that mean, Dennis? I'm stunned. What does that mean? What does that mean? La Liga have won the Champions League more times than Manchester United than the Premier League. Oh, the La Liga is better than the Premier League then, isn't it? It's like what Arsenal used to do with the Invincibles. What's that got to do with today? Why are we talking about yesterday? We're talking about today. Premier League shits all over La Liga. It's the best league in the world. It doesn't mean Real Madrid can't win the Champions League again, because like you're talking about with Bayern Munich, I think Bayern Munich are going to win the Champions League. Premier League's way better than the Bundesliga. It doesn't mean the best team isn't in there. You know, you might have a school that specialises in rugby, and they might have a brilliant rugby team. Doesn't mean they've got the best rugby player. The best rugby player might go to some school that doesn't even play rugby. So individual teams might be successful, but comparative league, the league strength of Premier League is bigger than any league in the world. That's why it's the best league in the world. People aren't thick. People aren't stupid. They don't watch a league just because it's English. They watch the Premier League because it's the best league in the world. In the early 90s, everyone used to watch Serie A because it was the best league in the world. I can't believe this so-called concerns player should be judged on the pitch, says GJ. No, that's bullshit as well. I would hate to see him go to another team and succeed, says Yef. Yeah, I'm not doing a poll for Mason Greenwood. You can jog on. United in the title race, parties injured for 8 weeks. Oh my God, is that true? I actually feel bad for Arsenal, you know, because... Oh, I think it is. Oh no, maybe he's not. Oh, maybe he is. I don't know. I don't know whether he's injured or not. But I don't want... there's a story here that Xabi does plan to use Arahu as the anti-Rashford in the match versus Man United, marking him the whole match like he did Vinicius. There you go. There you go. Maybe that will happen. Anyway, I've got to go and do That's Football. But thanks everyone for tuning in. I'd like to say that was an enjoyable show, but ultimately I think it started off well and descended into the toxic shit I can't be arsed with most of the time, where my faith in humanity just drops down to the gutter when I start reading some of the chats about something. You know, I'm a father with 2 daughters. I don't appreciate the comments that I read out there, but, you know, we are a community, and I suppose some people just have very little morals at all. Thanks everyone for watching. I will speak to you all on That's Football if you want to join in. Disappointing way to end the show, but there are vile fuckers out there, aren't they? It's the way life is. You just have to ignore it. Speak to everyone. Thanks for watching.